Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us again for another Sunday here on Faith in Our Hometown. I sometimes wonder what you people are doing at either at 6:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I'm usually getting ready for church, but if you're with us this morning, it's good to have you with us, and so thanks for tuning in. My guest this morning is going to be Pat LaPira. Pat is a former faculty member out at Missouri Southern, so we've known each other for many years out there, but one of the things that she's taken on in her, quote, retirement is she's become a board member for the Hope for You Breast Cancer Foundation. And so we're going to be talking a little bit this morning about breast cancer. We're going to be talking a little bit this morning about all those things that are important with breast cancer, like screening and education and all those things. And more importantly, how we can help and support people in our own community who have to deal with the issue of breast cancer. So please stick around, fill your coffee cup, settle back and get ready. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, but thanks for joining us for another Sunday here on Faith in Our Hometown.
Once I quit playing football, I still kept up with the eating, the amount of calories I wasn't exercising, so the weight started adding on. Dr. Lou is very knowledgeable in the work he does. He also has a program set up that has support systems in place for you. You'll go through the seminar at first. He'll give you the different examples of surgeries you can have to see which one works best with you. He will also sit down with you and discuss the options, what he feels, but he'll work with you the entire time. Mercy has their gastric bypass program here. They have all kinds of resources and support systems in place. They want to see you succeed, and they're here to help you the entire time, even after the surgery.
So again, thanks for joining us here this morning for Faith in Our Hometown on another wonderful Sunday morning. Again, my guest this morning, Pat LaPira. Pat, it's always good to see you.
Yeah.
I always laugh and enjoy myself and have fun when you're around. So please don't make a liar out of me this morning.
Okay, well, okay.
All right.
Cancer's not something we usually laugh about, but we'll see if we can't get it.
Yeah. Well, I just think that what we need to be laughing about is our friends who have engaged it and have done well with it. And, because even when somebody hits a diagnosis of cancer, it's not supposed to win. It's not supposed to suck all the joy out of life.
Sure.
It's just like, how do we help people to live with it? How do we help people to beat it? How do we help people to endure it if that's what's their lot in life? How do we do all those things? But how do we help people, give people hope? And that's the name of your organization, Hope for You. So talk a little bit about the organization and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, great. The Hope for You Breast Cancer Foundation was established in 2007, so it's 10 years old.
Yeah.
And to this point, we have committed and given over $400,000 to local. The great thing about our foundation, there's a lot of breast cancer foundations, but many of them are national and state level. Ours is local. So all of our money goes to women that cannot afford, either they don't have insurance or they don't have enough insurance, cannot afford a mammogram. So we are very fortunate in that the community, this is what I love about this show, is it's faith in the community, and
right.
That's what this is. It's like the community pulls together and does things. For example, Roper Kia might say in October, every car we sell, a portion's coming to Hope for You Foundation. Panera Bread has their pink ribbon bagels. We have a race in June. Those kinds a lot of the schools will have pink games, basketball games or football games, and we get that money, and then we then turn right around and give it back to the community by giving a check to Freeman, Mercy, the Pittsburgh, Carthage hospitals. And then they use that money to help women hopefully get an early diagnosis for breast cancer if they do get it.
Because that's key, we know, in the fight against this particular form of cancer is to find it early and get rid of it before it gets hold.
That's exactly right. So the quicker we can detect it, the more chance you have of survival. And of course, that's the big word, is that we want to all say that we're a survivor. Which, the reason I got involved in it is I am an 11-year survivor. So it's the word hope comes up so much, but for me, what drives me is these women that say, I'm a 20-year survivor, I'm a 30-year survivor. Well, on the other hand, I meet girls that are just going through treatment, and when I say I'm an 11-year survivor, they're like, oh my gosh, that gives me so much hope.
Exactly.
And that's what you need is hope.
Well, and that's one of the things, that when I was first getting to know you, because I came to the community a little over 11 years ago. Okay, it was probably 11 and a half years ago, and I was just getting to know you at that point in time when all this stuff started to happen. And I remember that. One of the things I always said about you was, she has got the best attitude.
Oh, wow.
Because you did. You were very pragmatic. You knew you had to go after it. You knew you had to get after it. You knew you had to fight it. But you were not going to let cancer be the defining moment of your life. And you knew that was a piece that you had to deal with, but that wasn't the sum total of who Pat LaPira was.
Yeah.
And that's to me the beauty of the whole thing. And I love it when you and other people like you, because I've just got the greatest admiration for people who've walked through that particular type of challenge and come out on the other side even better, and stronger.
Yeah, it does. It changes your perspective. I think you then realize, every day is just a gift. Mm-hmm. You just don't know. I mean, that day that they call you and say you have breast cancer, the bottom falls out. And you're like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? The word cancer just scares you.
Sure it does.
But like you said, you just do everything you can to keep it from winning. And if you don't keep a good, faith, family, and friends. I know people say those words all the time, but that's how you get through. You got to have faith. You got to have family gather around you, friends to support you, and that's really how I did it. So, and you got to have some humor when you're buying wigs.
That's why I said laugh. You gotta laugh.
Yeah, you do. You do have to, because physically it beats you up. Chemotherapy, radiation, they'll beat you up. But mentally, it's how you decide you're going to handle it. So.
Yeah, I was with a friend of mine a few years ago when we were making a little trip out toward Las Vegas, and I'm not a gambler at all. I mean, I put the poor casinos that are around here. I sometimes go there for dinner, and I sometimes walk through, but I don't think they've made a penny off of me gambling. But at any rate, we were out in Las Vegas and just seeing shows and doing fun stuff, and I got to go with her when she bought her wig. We kind of made it a group thing. She just finally said, my hair is so thin, I think I'm just going to go ahead and buy a wig. And we all went wig shopping with her together, and we had a ball. And we did. She bought a wig, and now she's got a few, because her hair never really did come back the way she wanted it to. But I'll tell you what, she too went through a lot. When you get that diagnosis, it's just kind of like. What are you going to do? So, yeah.
It's hard. And I think initially a lot of women will say, why me? And I think initially you think that, but then when you start studying, I really didn't know much about breast cancer. I had no reason to know it. I had no genetic background. My family didn't have it. But when I started reading and I read 1 in 8 women get diagnosed with breast cancer, immediately I said, why not me? I mean, look at, why not me? 1 in 8.
1 in 8.
So, it changes your perspective. And, but yeah, it's a battle, and you also rally around all the other survivors. It becomes almost a sisterhood of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I've always sensed that, and that's one of those things that I do know that there's rare cases of breast cancer in men too, but I'm just saying, for the most part, it is a very strong sisterhood, and I've just always noticed. If I can be in a conversation with somebody and just working with them and everything's fine, but I'll tell you what, when that other person walks in that has been through the same thing, I just kind of slowly back out of the room because there's really not, that they can speak a language that I just can't.
Yeah.
And I'm, in some ways I'm grateful I can't, but I always know that I'm kind of just standing there in the midst of something profound when I see it happen, because it's just kind of like, okay, I'll let you guys take care of this because you guys know what you're doing. You guys know what you're about.
Well, the first Saturday in June is when we have our Race for Hope. We've had it on Missouri Southern's cross-country trail the last couple summers. And there's included in that is a survivor walk. And that's really kind of, you almost get goosebumps because all the survivors are carrying flags and we walk out to the start line. And it's really a pretty cool moment. But
Yeah, so that's always in June every year.
June, yeah, it's usually it's first Saturday of June.
Okay, yeah, so a few months coming up, we'll be there to
Good.
hopefully cheer it on.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yep. So Hope for You is local, all right? And so your board is made up all of local people, and And so how would, if somebody needs your services, how would they get in touch with you?
Okay, well, we're all volunteers, and the Hope for You, we do have a website, hopeforyou.bcf.org.
So BCF, which
Breast
would be
Cancer
Foundation.
Foundation.org.
So Hope for, with the 4 rather than 4, F-O-R. So Hope for, number 4, you, BCS, so breastcancerfoundation.org. Okay.
So we have a website with a lot of information, a lot of pictures from some of our events and things. But really, what happens a lot is that people will say, we're going to have something at work. For example, I had one of my former players that's now a principal. She called me and said, we donated in October, our faculty, if they gave money, they could wear jeans on Friday. And we want to donate that to some breast cancer foundation. Many of them will just give to Freeman or they'll give to Mercy. And some of them don't want to do that because they think, gosh, if I give to Freeman, then Mercy's going to be mad at me. And if I get So the great thing about us is that, we give to all of them. I mean, we don't pick
and
one
let's
or the
just
other.
say something out loud here on TV, okay, about all that business about Freeman has its supporters, Mercy has its supporters, and some people will just die by that particular institution because it's who they are. And of course, we're sponsored by Mercy, so I mean, and I'm a Catholic priest, so Mercy. But I'll tell you what, both groups in town do some phenomenal care of the women who entrust themselves to them, and it works well. So I'm glad you're kind of like an equal opportunity, kind of a
bias.
group that goes to everything, which is great. But I will tell you this, and I think I can speak on behalf of Freeman and behalf of Mercy when I say this. What's important is that you're in as a supporter, one way or the other. And wherever you feel comfortable giving your money, whether it's Hope for You, whether it's Freeman, whether it's whatever it happens to be, I just think, if it's something that you've got a heart for, give, and that money's going for good stuff, regardless of which institution's going to be doing the testing or which institution's going to be doing the care. God knows everybody's going to benefit from good care and love from people here in our community.
That's true. That's true. And it's always, like you said, it's always appreciated. It's just, it's a blessing. And hopefully, women have been touched by, with our money. Hopefully we know we've given out $400,000, and we're assuming that somewhere along the line that has saved a woman.
Oh yeah, and probably more than one.
Yes.
Along the way, which is a good thing. So you had your own cancer diagnosis 11 years ago. When did you get involved with Hope for You?
I have been a board member for 3 years, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
3. It's just some volunteers, and some are breast cancer survivors, and others are just community folks. And it's a good group, and we don't really, we don't go out and solicit money. But if people say, "Hey, we'd love to give," we certainly, appreciate it.
So that would also, if somebody wanted to do that through this venue, they could also get on that Hope for You, Hope with the number 4, Hope for You, BCF, Breast Cancer Foundation .org, and they could do that there if they were so inclined.
Yes,
yeah.
they could. Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of that, I know you provide the mammograms. Okay, so that's the big, kind of like the big thrust of the charitable outreach that your particular foundation does. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about what else the foundation does, but we're going to take a little break first. We are talking with Pat Lapira, who is a board member for the Hope for You Breast Cancer Foundation. Again, a former faculty member, Professor Emerita, if you want to use the fancy title, out at Missouri Southern. So we're going to be right back. This is Faith in Our Home. Take a quick break. Don't go away.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Again, thanks for sticking with us again for another Sunday morning on Faith in Our Hometown. So, Pat Lapira, our guest this morning, talking a little bit about her own breast cancer journey, and we were talking about the work that Hope for You Breast Cancer Foundation does. Now, the big thing, of course, is you provide mammograms for folks who might not be underinsured or might be falling through the cracks or doing those things, again, because we want early detection so that they can get early treatment rather than waiting for it to turn into something that's a lot harder to manage. breast cancer diagnosis, I'm sure, is difficult to manage, but the earlier the better in that regard. What else does the foundation do, Pat?
Well, we also have about every, I think, 3 months, we invite breast cancer survivors to a dinner. So we all, again, that's an opportunity to get together and just share stories and provide hope. You know, it's so interesting to see some of them that are, like I said before, 20-year survivors sitting with someone who just now is going through chemotherapy and watching that. Those dynamics and watching that hope build up, and some of them are discouraged and they just need somebody to talk to them and maybe even go out and sit with them at a chemotherapy session and be there for them. And so yeah, that's primarily, like I said, they're just we're volunteers. We meet once a month and talk about what's this month look like. You know, are there things we need to be doing? Are there things that we can do? October is a very, very busy month because that's when a lot of the breast cancer functions are going on and events. And then June's a busy month because that's our race, and that takes a lot of preparation. But those are our two biggest months.
Yeah, October is always a big month for doing some of those things. It's always interesting to me. I mean, I think the Globe does a great job with their stories in the Globe. Of course, all of our TV stations, including our own here, try to make sure that they highlight that during that that time period. And again, it's just I find October one of those again just a good to have it before us all the time so that we don't lose track of it. And also a reminder of folks to do their diagnostics and to make sure that they have their mammograms and to do all those things.
Yeah, I know this station, I know they have the buddy checks. Get a buddy and make sure you're getting checked out. And Jessica Shire is actually on our board, so she's one of the news anchors here. And
good.
Yeah, so it's exciting.
Yeah. So most of it, though, let's go back to that one little concept you were talking about earlier, because we talked about it a little before we got on the air, and then you talked about it a little bit in some of your comments. But faith, family, and friends, that those were critical in this whole thing. And again, that's one of the reasons why we do this show, is we're just kind of trying to spread that concept of how do we do this even between church communities? How do we do this as a larger Joplin area? Because we all do it on our small scale, wherever we happen to be in our own church communities or whatever. But how do we get everybody to kind of think about that in a little bit of a broader package? So you were saying that you think that for you is so critical, that framework of faith and friends and family. Yeah. How'd they help you during that time?
Well, certainly faith. The interesting thing about cancer, it wakes you up to, I think we go through life a lot. I hate to say this, but we think we're in control. We think we're in control. And you think you're the one calling the shots. When you get cancer, you recognize you are not in control, that you turn it all over to God. You can do nothing with a tumor. You can do nothing. So it really, I woke up and thought, gosh, Pat, you thought you were in control of things, but you're not. Right. And so I think your faith, you're thinking, oh my gosh, God, you're in total control of this. And then I think family and friends are just there. They've got to encourage you and support you. And I think your faith community too. I mean, there are still folks out there that think, what'd you do wrong? I wonder why you got punished. What did you got cancer? I wonder, is that some kind of punishment? Is that some kind of consequence? Are you a smoker? Are you and certainly we recognize that if you are a smoker, you are at risk for lung cancer. We recognize that. So you do make some choices,
sure,
and it might be a consequence. But I do not believe that my breast cancer was, unless eating French fries caused it.
Because you're guilty of that.
Yes, I am guilty of that.
You're guilty of eating French fries.
But
okay.
I really think that a faith community is critical to not push that message, because there are some folks out there that still have that attitude of, well, God must be punishing them, and what did you do, and this must be a consequence of some behavior, and
sure,
and I think it's so important to surround yourself with people that don't feel that way.
Well, and I think that and I know that there are some people who would interpret it that way, but I would say most of the people that I know, at least in the Christian community, would not, we'd also go to some of those passages that say, but God causes the rain to fall on the good and the bad,
exactly,
on the just and the unjust. I mean, it's not, so many things in life just happen to us, that I don't think, again, are causal. I don't think God says, okay, today I think I'm going to get Pat. because of what she did back in 1962. I have a hard time
Right.
believing in a God like that. I mean, I just think God is so much bigger than that, has so many more things, on his mind than, running around trying to just be punitive in this moment or in that moment. I do think, of course, God allows it. Certainly God allows diseases and all those things to happen in the world. And there's certainly cancer is one of the big challenges of all of those diseases. But I think God works with us in the middle of all of it, rather than is sitting around micromanaging. I'm going to get Pat today, or this is because she did this at this point in time. Because I got news for you. If that were the case, I mean, I'm waiting for it all to happen, because I'm not,
Well, and most people, their favorite book in the Bible isn't Job, but if you suffer, Job became I read Job every day. It was like, he was my hero. It's like he suffered and suffered, but he still never, ever, his wife told him, just curse God and move on. And, his friends, I was just thankful my friends weren't like Job's friends. So, what's the matter? What did you do?
Yeah.
So Job became my favorite book in the Bible, and it still kind of is. But
yeah, well, I did. I got to tell you this. Job's always been one of my favorite books in the Bible, and I really haven't even been tested the same way. But I did back when I was studying the wisdom literature. The wisdom literature for me in the Hebrew Scriptures is just, to me, some of the best stuff that's in there, because again, it just tries to get you to try to find God in the middle of everything. It tries to get you to find God in the middle of everything. And Job had to make meaning out of the fact that his life, was pretty difficult and challenged, but yet that he still found meaning in the middle of all of it. And I love the ending of the book, because at the very end, Job finally dares to question. And God never really answers the question. All God does is ask 47 more questions. He says, well, where were you when the world was created? Where were you when the seas got put where they got put? Where were you when all this stuff happened? And Job just goes, okay. And, but they still wind up together at the end, which I love. It's great.
And God's like, what's wrong with your friends? What's wrong with you guys? Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
But, it's, it changes you. And I think the faith part is just absolutely critical. And certainly family and friends. I don't know how people do it without those three things.
And that's why I think organizations like Hope for You are extremely important. What happens if there is somebody in the community who's not yet had that network? Or what happens if, they moved here, or maybe, some of their friends have already gone on or whatever, and they don't have that same kind of support. At least an organization like yours is there to provide some of that friendship, woman to woman, that they might not get otherwise. So you become that community of friends.
You do, and I'll tell you another thing that's critical is when you hear that someone got diagnosed, to say, tell them to call me, because there's nothing more devastating than that diagnosis, and you're scared to death of the future. What is chemotherapy like, and what is it like to lose your hair, and what is it like, so to just meet with somebody, go to lunch with them and say, you know what, you're going to be, I just met with a lady the other day. I said, she said, I'm so worried about my mastectomy, and I go, that's easy, that's nothing, and kind of like, really? Yeah, that's nothing, you'll be fine. And it really kind of eases their, mind a little bit,
Yeah.
And I did fine in chemotherapy. I was jogging, I taught. Really? I thought I'd be in a chair. No, you'll be fine,
and again, everybody is different, but I mean, again, that attitude and, and again, what they got you on, everybody's different. I never pretend that I'm going to know what they're going to go through, but I am going to tell you, I do like to hook them up with people like you who will talk about the fact that, I managed that pretty well, but then what was the hard part? And then all of a sudden the hard part that was for you, somebody else in your group's going to be looking at it going, oh, that was nothing. I didn't have a problem with that. That was good, but this was tough for me.
What's funny is the girl that hooked up with me when I got diagnosed, she goes, well, the hardest part is losing your hair. And I'm like, losing your hair? That's the hardest part? Well, she was a hairdresser. And I thought, well, no wonder you think that. That's what you do for a living. But you know what? The hardest part was when all of a sudden you combed your hair and it was falling out. And I thought, well, she was right.
I've had that problem, but for different reasons. But I can imagine what it would be like suddenly for the rest of it to go.
And your taste is all messed up when you're on chemotherapy. And for some reason, I never ate a gummy bear in my life, but I had to have gummy bears. And so now when somebody's just diagnosed, I say, I'll get you your gummy bears. And they're like, gummy bears? I go, yeah, you're going to need them.
I love it. I love it. And again, that's the human part that I love a foundation like yours. Your foundation is really, again, like one of the small ones. It's, you know, it's small, it's non-complicated, it's, you know, it's just kind of like there, but it's Hope for You, the Breast Cancer Foundation, BCF, Hope for You. And the reason why I love yours is because yours is just simple and it's uncomplicated and it's got very simple goals and it's all right here and it's local and it does what you do for each other, which is just kind of be there for your sisters who need the assistance one way or the other, be it in friendship, be it in helping them, you know, who can't afford their mammograms, whatever. You're there for them. So again, my guest this morning, Pat LaPira from the Hope for You Foundation, and talking a little bit about our own experience with breast cancer and indeed what the Hope for You Foundation does for other folks in terms of trying to make sure that we can make a difference in the world of some people who might have to deal with the issue of breast cancer. So we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Stick around.
The SANE program, or Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner program, is a program established to provide a coordinated, specialized care to patients who, or women or men, who've been the victim of sexual assault.
The SANE program is really designed to be a collaborative community response to sexual assault.
It's really important to make sure that it's not just the report or the forensic, but they get all of the testing that might be needed for their health.
It's also important to know that you don't need to know if you want to press charges or not. We don't get law enforcement involved unless you request it.
I just want to express to the victim that it is never your fault. You always have the right to say no and that it's your body. So if you say yes one time, it doesn't mean every time.
I think it's important that sexual assault victims remember they've been victims of a crime, and crime victims do not pay for those services.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday here for Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Pat LaPira, formerly of Missouri Southern, but now happily serving her sisters in the Hope for You Breast Cancer Foundation. So, Pat, thanks for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Pat, pointed out to us the importance of faith and family and friends. And that's the reason why we do this show, Faith in Our Hometown, is because we're just trying to spread that concept that says that our lives here in this whole region are going to be a whole lot better when we learn how to take care of each other, when we learn how to treat each other with love and with kindness, and we learn how to reach out in supporting anybody who needs what they need in a particular thing. Women who suffer with cancer in the Hope for You Foundation receive that help from their sisters. So if you'd like to learn more about them, you can go on their website. But until then, let's continue to take care of each other. Let's continue to make this a larger faith family, and let's continue to pray and support one another. Join us next week for Faith in Our Hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.